and all church of our precious Lord and Savior.
Africa, I am telling oh, oh, it was you who created us, Lord, and not we ourselves. So I'm giving all the praises to you and no one else. You gave me a heart of love, life filled with happiness. I will forever praise you. My life is truly blessed. Africa, I love you. I love you. With every breath I take, with every move I make, Africa, I love you. I love you. With every breath I take, with every move I make.
How dare they say that Africa cannot be redeemed when we have over 400 million black men and women with warm African blood cruising through their veins. The power that all Africa is not divine. The power that all Africa is human. And it is recognized that what other man has done, men can do. We the black race are moving from one state of organization to another. And we shall continue until we have truly lifted ourselves in the organization of government. Be as proud of your race today as our fathers were in the days of yours. We have a beautiful history, and we shall create another in the future that shall astonish the world. Every student of political science, every student of economics knows that a race can only be free through a solid industrial foundation. Knows that a race can only be free through political independence. Take away industry from a race. Take away political freedom from a race.
Africa, I love you. I love you. With every breath I take, with every move I make, Africa, I love you. I love you. With every breath I take, with every move I make, Africa, I love you. I love you. God know, yeah. God know, Africa, we love you. Mama Africa, yeah, yeah.
Let no other race influences you against your own. One of the greatest weapons used against blacks is this organization. If we have no confidence within ourselves, we're twice defeated in the race of life. Confidence, we have won even before we started. At no time within the last 500 years can no one point a single finger at the black race as a race of haters. The black man has loved even under severest punishment. In slavery, he loved his master. He even safeguarded his own even when he further planned to enslave them. We are not a race of haters, but lovers of humanity's cause. Jah Rastafari, Selassie I, the first.
Good evening, everyone, and welcome to another edition of UIC Liberty TV. This is Joseph Patterson, joining you live here on our usual show. Tonight is a very special night. Tonight we are, in fact, going to be talking about something very special to me, and I think it should be special to you as well. It is the celebration of KAWNZAA. Of course, yesterday we were all engaged in one way or another in the Christmas holiday. Whether we celebrate Christmas or not, we were impacted because it is a national holiday, indeed almost a global holiday. But tonight I want to talk to you about KAWNZAA. So let me begin by saying Happy KAWNZAA to each and every one of you who are here with us tonight. My goal tonight is for us to learn about KAWNZAA, what KAWNZAA is, and how we can use it to influence our lives in a very positive way. We're going to be reconnecting with our ancestors, reconnecting with our African heritage and culture, and give it a new and fresh meaning to our lives, recognizing that over the years we have been kind of pulled away into a Eurocentric form of thinking, one which actually seeks to depreciate the African man and woman. And, we have to blame ourselves, right? We have to blame our own leaders, our own ancestors for failing to defend our freedom and protecting our heritage. But it is our responsibility now to reclaim that heritage. And it's our responsibility to reclaim that freedom. And it's our responsibility to defend and protect that with our lives if necessary. So tonight we want to talk about KAWNZAA, the origins of KAWNZAA, the principles of KAWNZAA. And then we want to just open up and have some Q&A where we just talk about any topic that you want me to talk about tonight. I'll be very open to any questions you may have or anything you want me to touch on. You saw where, for example, the authorities really beat up some Jamaicans and mash up them stall and take for them goods and rob them of the opportunity to make a few last-minute sales in anticipation of celebrating whatever little holiday they may have. So we're going to talk a little bit about that as well. We also saw in the news where some persons were celebrating a 14-year-old that gave birth to twins. To me, quite a tragedy and something that might actually be a crime. We're going to talk a little bit about that as well, if you want us to. And then there's the big IMF package that the government has taken from its colonial masters. More loans, more importation of inflation into our economy, more devaluation of our dollar, and more hardship on the Jamaican people. Of course, normally they start off by telling you something nice and fun, that, they're doing something lovely for us. But we know the game now. We kind of understand what they're going to do. So we're not surprised. We know what's going on. So good night, and welcome everyone. JMH, good to see you out. Zion Warrior, good night to you as well. And Clive Morrison, good to see you on. Let's join hands and heart together for sure. And good night to you, Dorrit Elliott. Have I missed anyone? Let me see who else we have on here tonight. Ennis, good night to you. Welcome. I see about it. Him say, come through, Mr. Patterson. Yes, I'm here, my friend. So welcome to all of you. Welcome, Sonia. Good to see you on as well. Hope your throat is feeling better now. Lenworth Duffus, thanks for being here with us as well. And hope you all had a very good Christmas day yesterday. And it doesn't matter now, whether you don't celebrate or you celebrate Christmas, December 25th come no matter what. So I hope the day was okay for you, that it was a pleasant day, a safe day, and that you didn't do like what I did. I did not follow my own advice. I did drink a little bit too much sorrel. And between yesterday and today, Mrs. Patterson and I eat off at least half of the Christmas cake already. So, so that's quite a bit. So I'm sure I'm going to have to do some extra exercise to, take off these pounds. It says a minute on the lips and a lifetime on the hips. So we have to be careful. Good to know you're doing better, Miss Sonia, and good to see you on. All right, so let's kick things off tonight by, first I want to show you a video that is going to give you a little bit of the history of KAWNZAA, some of the interpretation, some of the ideas. I want you to listen to them carefully. There are 7 key principles. One that talks about unity, one that talks about self-determination, another one that talks about collective work and responsibility, and number 4, cooperative economics, number 5, purpose, number 6, creativity, and number 7, faith. Now the UIC kind of interpret those a little differently. We talk about unity, individual liberty, personal responsibility, free and fair economy, productivity, creativity, and honesty. So I'm going to explain to you why we use some different words to mean, in many cases, the same things. But there are some subtle nuances that you need to be aware of when you're thinking about Kwanzaa and the ideas articulated. And one of the key things I want you to think about is the dichotomy of the individual versus the collective. Very important. In some philosophies, they seek to emphasize collective and to downplay the individual. The UIC's philosophy is really to begin with the smallest minority, which is the individual. We never want to minimize the individual because the individual must never lose his or her individuality. The individual should never lose his or her individual sovereignty. So you have to be careful of collectives. Collectives are good. For example, when we talk about unity, we're talking about coming together and joining hands for a common cause. But we must never carelessly disregard the importance of protecting individual liberty, because sometimes the collective can be wrong, you see. The collective might be taking you in the wrong direction. And so you want a society that preserves your individual sovereignty, your individual right, your individual freedom, your individual life, liberty, and property rights, so that if the collective is heading in the wrong direction, each individual must have the freedom to step out of it and say, no, so. Yeah. And so I want you to bear that in mind as you watch this video. I want you to think about everything you hear from me or from the UIC within the context of that dichotomy, individual versus collective. The two are not mutually exclusive, but it's important to guard against the collective oppressing the individual. Or you, for example, when you get married and the Bible talks about the two becoming one. Yes, you're now two partners. My wife and I, we're great partners. We work very well together. But we want to protect our individual identities, our individual roles, our individual responsibilities, our individual liberty to make choices that we feel are in our best interest. And so when we go about doing something collectively, it must not be because any one of us used force or coercion to say, well, you must do this. Instead, it needs to be the two of us sitting around the table, having a discussion, a dialogue, weighing pros and cons. You know, I remember when we were beginning to return to Jamaica after living in Canada for some time. And we sat around the table, my wife and I, and our three children that were much younger than they are now. And we talked about, okay, you know, I have always wanted to return to Jamaica from the very day that I left this beautiful country. I wanted to return. So as we matured and, you know, made some good and bad decisions, developed as a family, and now found ourselves in a stronger position to make the decision to return home to Jamaica. It still required a discussion, you know, sitting around the table, and in fact, more than one sitting. This is like Parliament, if you will, you know, and we sat down and we talked about, you know, returning to Jamaica. Now that would have been back in before 2011, getting up there, because we came back in 2011. And so we had to talk about it. And we had a discussion around the table, and each of the children gave their thoughts and their ideas. Remember, they're kids now, right? I would say, you know, 10, the eldest one would have been around maybe 16, 17. And the next two would have been 5 and 6 years behind her. And so we were sitting down now talking, and we would reason it out. And I remember we made up a grid, with headers and pros and cons. And then we go down the list. And so some of us wanted to move to the US, to Florida. Some wanted to move to a warmer part in Canada, British Columbia. And some, well, one wanted to return to Jamaica primarily. That was me. And so we had to reason it out. Needless to say, in the end, I kind of won the debate, but it wasn't easy. But it wasn't by force. We went through a number of iterations to get to that. And so you want to have that. You want to preserve that individuality, the freedom to look at pros and cons and to decide, So you must be able to join a group, for example, voluntarily. You come in voluntarily and you can leave voluntarily. There should be no force to prevent you from leaving the group, or no force to coerce you into joining the group. So the UIC believes in collective sovereignty, but most importantly, individual sovereignty. Without your individual sovereignty, collective sovereignty means nothing. Without the right and freedom to choose for yourself what you want to do with your life, then nothing else matters. So follow me now. We're going to watch a video that's going to tell us a little bit more about KAWNZAA. And Ennis says, I think KAWNZAA is the most honest celebration. The other December holidays are based in mythical beliefs and straight out lies. Ennis, and yes, and that's your view, Ennis. And the truth is, there's historical facts to that. We know that much of what we do today, a lot of the stuff that we did, came from cultures and traditions outside of our own. They're not necessarily African cultures and traditions. Much of the cultures and traditions that we observe are Eurocentric. They're coming from a European slant. Some of them might have been influenced to some degree by, African myths and legends as well. But for the most part, it's a Greek or Roman kind of thing that has guided our current way of living and even thinking. And so now we have to kind of understand that. And that's why the UIC placed honesty as one of the 7. Instead of just saying faith, I want us to be honest. I want us to be honest about why we're here, how we got to this place, and honest about what we need to do to get out of it, and not just say a bunch of mumbo jumbo, nice sounding things, but still get stuck in the same position. So I want us to get beyond the just the nice talking and the nice words, to become real, understand fully what is going on here and what we need to do if we're going to be the great people that we can be and should be and have a history of being in the past. So Juliet Chambers says, Mr. Patterson, President of Jamaica, you warm my heart every time I see you. Oh, thank you, Juliet. You're so kind, so thoughtful. Valerie Lee says, good morning, Mr. Patterson and UIC family. Happy KAWNZAA. Good morning, Valerie. I suspect you're in a different time zone. It's now 7:21 p.m. here in Jamaica, and we know our friends in the US, the UK. You're about 6 hours ahead, or somewhere there. So welcome. So now, bear with me. We're going to watch a little video. Then we're going to come back and talk some more to make sure we fully understand KAWNZAA. And we're going to celebrate it for the next 7 days. Today is the first day, the day of unity. We're going to celebrate that today. And then we're going to do the next piece tomorrow, and so on, all the way to January 1st. So let us take a look at this now and see if we can learn about the history of KAWNZAA, and then we can talk about it some more. Okay, so here we go. Let's see if we can get this going. 1 second here. Good. Let's go.
Pour libation for the great God, the Most High, Olodumare, Amen Ra. We pour libation for all of the honored ancestors who sit at the feet of God in a lifetime which is to follow this one. We pour libation for all of our ancestors who unfortunately perished in the Middle Passage. We pour libation for all of our people who struggled and never accepted the condition of slavery. We pour libation for all of those today who struggle against conditions of oppression. We pour libation for our children, that the future may be theirs, indeed may be blessed again by the liberation that comes with KAWNZAA. KAWNZAA is a celebration of life and a way of life. It's the African American community dancing in front of the mirror of its own history, singing its own songs to the rhythm of its own drums. Believe it, soul survives and thrives and feeds the elders, the adults, the youths, and the children. Powered by the cultural renewal that comes with KAWNZAA, people are creating new institutions and focusing on solutions. KAWNZAA is a Swahili word that means harvest or first fruits. For the 15 million African Americans who celebrate KAWNZAA, the harvest is who we have become, what we have struggled to build and to develop in our nation, our community. Although KAWNZAA is celebrated from December 26th through January 1st, it is not a holy day, a religious holiday. Instead, it celebrates the tradition and culture of African American people. The foundation of the KAWNZAA symbols is the mkeka, the mat. It is made of straw and it represents the history and tradition of African people. The best known KAWNZAA symbol is the kinara, the 7-candle holder. It represents African parenthood, the mother and the father. In the kinara, we place 7 candles for the principles: unity, self-determination, collective work and responsibility, cooperative economics, purpose, creativity, and faith. They represent the Nguzo Saba, and that is the true meaning of KAWNZAA. You'll hear more about that later. This wooden cup represents the Kikombe Cha Umoja, the unity cup. It is used to pour libation and for everyone at the ceremony to take a sip from to symbolize unity during the KAWNZAA celebrations. These ears of corn are called the muhindi. They represent the children. There should be 1 ear of corn for each child in the household. The mazao are the crops, fruits and vegetables, which represent the rewards or the harvest for our productive efforts throughout the past year. If there's one similarity between KAWNZAA and Christmas, it is the zawadi, the gifts. KAWNZAA gifts, books, jewelry, articles of clothing, are intended mainly for children, and they are designed to reward the children for the promises made and kept during the year. We complete the KAWNZAA display with a poster listing the Nguzo Saba, the 7 values that are the focus of KAWNZAA. We also display the Bendera, the red, black, and green flag created by Marcus Garvey for the African people. During KAWNZAA ceremonies, the family lights the candle for the day and discusses that principle. Then we share a drink from the Kimkombe, eat the evening meal, and focus on building positive values in the African American family and community. As a holiday, KAWNZAA is relatively new. Its roots are in the intense self-examination that bridged the civil rights movement to black nationalism in America.
And many of the people who were advocates of civil rights saw that the only interest was in social justice, correcting the social injustices in the society. But they were not have the vision enough to see that that was not our only problem. The social justice was not our only problem, that we had a real problem in terms of developing a greater sense of community among us as a people. And we cannot really see or understand or appreciate social justice until we understand that we are in fact a community of people, and that therefore we must begin to build the institutions and the organizations and structures that will greater extend that sense of community among us as a people. KAWNZAA was created in 1966 by Dr. Maulana Karenga, who at the time was a student at UCLA, and it was part of his organization, which he called US organization. He created KAWNZAA as a way of introducing to black people the 7 core principles of the organization. And at the time he was developing his socio-political philosophy called KAWNZAA, which was centered on African American culture and the development of African American culture as a key to unifying black people so that we can begin to develop a stronger sense of community and also to prepare us for social and political change in the society. Dr. Karenga originally developed KAWNZAA as an alternative to Christmas. And that was because the nationalist community saw that they didn't want to observe Christmas as a holiday, as a cultural holiday. And so KAWNZAA served as an alternative for many of the nationalists at the time. But you have to understand that many of the African Americans are Christian. And so therefore they want to celebrate KAWNZAA as a cultural holiday and also observe Christmas as a specific religious holiday. And there's no discrepancy or no problem with that with us. KAWNZAA has grown, in other words, from being an alternative to being a complementary holiday and a holiday that can unify the African American community no matter what religious perspective you adhere to.
The language of KAWNZAA is Swahili, and one of the first things people do is learn the Nguzo Saba, the 7 values. We honor one of the Nguzo Saba on a particular day of KAWNZAA. The first day is for Umoja, unity. Kujichagulia is for self-determination. Ujima is collective work and responsibility. Ujamaa is cooperative economics. Nia stands for purpose. Kuumba means creativity. And Imani is the value faith. The values play an important part in the lives of African Americans, not only during KAWNZAA, but throughout the year. For example, Umoja, unity, plays a fundamental role at the St. Bernardine's Head Start Center.
And it's very important for us to be validated within our own culture and to support the ongoing unity and development of the African family, because that's going to be crucial in the years to come as a result of the programs that we've developed here at St. Bernardine's and as a result of their experience in the Head Start program, that we will enhance the overall academic development of the child and promote the parent as the primary educator of the child. And we know that the only way that we can promote a healthy self-esteem in our children and in our parents is if we do it in a way that supports who we are. Because I am just convinced that we have been miseducated in a Eurocentric value system in the aspect that it does not fully reflect the total picture and the total history. And what we're trying to do here is not give a slanted view of what's happening in the world or in history, but certainly to give an overall perspective of what that means. And the holistic part speaks to valuing each individual for what they offer as an individual person in the educational process. The Nguzo Saba, or the 7 principles, fits into the St. Bernardine's model in that we feel that the principles that are examined in the Nguzo Saba should be principles that all mankind should be striving to achieve, and that all people, regardless of their heritage, can strive for. Because the things that we are talking about are a philosophy. They're not connected to a religion, and they're not connected to any specific beliefs. And we are not supporting or encouraging individuals to do anything differently with what their traditional celebrations are. But what we are saying is rather examine what you're doing in terms of your celebration and to see if indeed it supports the value system of your family.
Kujichagulia, self-determination, is the perfect fit for the Rites of Passage program sponsored by the African American Men's Leadership Council.
The Rites of Passage program is an opportunity for us to actually practice self-determination. We understand that after being here many years and fact, initially as we got here in America, African-descended people, that much of our language, our values, our rituals, and what have you were taken away from us. As a result, we're going back to reclaim some of those while at the same time recreating some here. The importance of self-determination is always for and through the community, so that if I become empowered, my empowerment furthers my community. Somewhere in the last 15 or 20 years, we've taken value education out of our high schools, and with parents doing double jobs and so on, young people don't get an opportunity to really interact and get value education as it was gotten in Africa or even in America.
Black people were once great. Why? Because we believed in our race, community, and heritage. Why aren't we great now? We are great now, but it is hidden in our self-doubt. We must release our positive energy, and we will be great forever and ever.
So we understand that if we're going to make a change in young people today, and even in our adults, that we're going to have to give them another set of values, less materialistic, more spiritualistic, more community-oriented, less I-oriented. We started a year-long program where the young men had to maintain a log and a journal book. They had to adopt an elder. They had to do community service. They had to learn the principles of KAWNZAA, that was mandatory, and a number of other things, learn about African-American heroes and sheroes, and write about them. So we were not only teaching the value system, we were reinforcing academic skills, we were teaching them the importance of community service and respecting elders and respecting ancestors. We taught them a number of rituals.
You ready to drink from the cup of the bitter? All right.
Cup of the bitter.
Life has its bitter moments. All right.
And for the better moments of life, the cup of the sweet.
All right.
Africans made sure that it was a formal process. They left nothing to chance. These rituals were developed to make sure that what would be passed from one generation to the next would be formal and would be left for each succeeding generation. And so that's what we want to do. We want to put in place formal processes that would not only impact upon children, but will impact upon adults as well.
UJIMA, Collective Work and Responsibility, was the motivating force behind the creation of the Young People's Health Connection, a successful teenage pregnancy prevention program.
Collective work and responsibility is something that I should put over the doors of all of our sites, because everyone, they may not have heard the term UJIMA, but they certainly know the concept. We have a model health center called the Young People's Health Connection. There we provide comprehensive health services, but we also provide services that we consider that are holistic, in that we provide all the different, I would think, activities and resources that young people might utilize in order to be successful. I'm talking about things from job counseling, health education, cultural and recreational activities. We look at the whole person. We don't just look at the genital reproductive side of young people, but we look at them as whole people, and we provide all the different kinds of services and activities that we think they might need.
Just behind that concept of UJIMA, the whole notion of working and responsibility collectively, I think there's something even behind that that drives the person like Dina to work, and a person such as myself to work in an environment that may not be considered ideal, if you don't understand what I mean. Not necessarily the money, but just the whole realm of the working environment. The force that's behind that is a love force, and that forces literally you to go places that normally you wouldn't go, and that's what drives me.
We see close to maybe 30 or 40 kids a week
You know, so that's a lot of things, you know, with one person being in the front office answering phones, making appointments, you know, and nurse practitioners running around trying to see patients. We know that if there's a job to be done, we all have to do it collectively if it is to happen.
Ujamaa, cooperative economics, is the foundation for community-conscious business practices exemplified by the husband and wife entrepreneurs who established Everyone's Place.
At Everyone's Place, you'll find people from all walks of life in here. There's no limitations, no one is excluded. We encourage people of all religious sects, we include people of all economic sects, we include people from all areas. And we try to let this be a meeting ground for them, a place where we can come and have even discussion and have a more understanding of one another.
Ujamaa, as a principle of KAWNZAA, informs us that we must build our own businesses, control the economics of our own community, and share in all its work and wealth. And any people would see this as being sensible, because without this happening in our community, we will create the social conditions for exploitation and oppression and basic human inequalities in any society. I remember 4 years ago, before before we saw the resurgence in African culture, people would walk outside the streets and almost like looking here and laugh because they didn't understand what was going on. But by us being here and us being consistent, you find the same person who went by and laughed yesterday. Today he's coming in here to ask us about African history and culture. We have an enormous responsibility to return to the community, one, socially, in our social relationships with the community, to provide an example, first of all, of a good family that's running a good business so that people can look at us and take example from us and want to be like us. Then we have, secondly, to return to the community economically and financially in terms of providing affordable products and affordable services for the community, in terms of making the community be able to share in our business, as far as ownership, as far as working in our business and participating in it, and in other areas.
Nia, purpose, brings inspiration to another conscious couple, Daki and Dina Napata, who founded Napata Promotions and Productions.
Thank you very much for coming out and joining us in Napata Promotion and Productions.
My husband and I work in the community in our own business, Napata Promotions and Productions. And what we do in that business is to try to publicize the services that other African businesses have in the community, other services that they're providing. What we found was that there were a lot of reputable African businesses within the community, but other people were not being made aware of that. So that's a service that we provide. NIA, of course, means the purpose is to bring our people back to their original greatness. We once were a very great and a very strong people. We've always been a very strong people. But a key, I think, for Daki and I is to use our abilities to bring our people back economically to the status that we once were.
The key is that we all see ourselves as interconnected, and whatever impacts on one degree of the African family impacts on all of us, so that our concern for what's going on in South Africa or Grenada or other places is because we see ourselves as one people.
Most of the time, the programs that we have and with the service that we provide, we're dealing with a constituency that doesn't really have the money, the means economically that other business like ours would have. We don't get that kind of support. So there's always that contradiction between trying to have a successful business in capitalist America.
What Africans have to do is to manufacture opportunities and occasions for education. And this is why churches are so important, because to become places of educational information, cultural information. The churches ought to be filled with people coming, learning information, because without that kind of education and without that kind of centering, we become lost, detached, isolated from ourselves and our history.
What we want to do is to promote a sense of self-determination and self-knowledge within African people, and that means focusing in on self and your individual as well as your collective skills in order to better the community.
KAWNZAA, creativity, extends beyond the arts into building new institutions that beautify and enhance the community, as seen in the unique Great Blacks in Wax Museum.
One of the greatest conductors of the undergraduate movement was Maryland's Harriet Tubman. Her exploits earned her the title, the Black Moses.
Much of what exists in the world today, it can be traced directly back to our hands, to our brains, to our creativity. The idea that by finding a very visual way to display that history, that we could bring in more people, take advantage of, and learn about the knowledge that we are a very creative people and have done numerous things and have made significant contributions to the world. Because this was a mission for us, it was something we needed to do in terms of helping to raise the esteem of young blacks, of helping them to understand the rich history that they had behind them, rich history that their parents and their ancestors had helped to create. We didn't really go this understanding that along being a mission, it was also a business. So we had to start the learning process after we started the mission, and to understand that things would work out, that people would discover us, but that we had some groundwork that we had to do ourselves. Well, I like to think that we're never going to really reach our peak. If we're doing what we're supposed to do, then that it's just not possible to reach out. I think that there is just so much to be done, so much to tell, and we've just really scratched the surface. We opened our doors to neighbors, many of them work in the museum. So we have gone from the strengths and the creativity and the talent of the Baltimore community to help create this institution.
Welcome to the Community Feast, which occurs on the 6th night of KAWNZAA, KAWNZAA, December 31st. Karamu, all of the families of the community gets together to celebrate the culmination of KAWNZAA. We celebrate all of the Nguzo Saba, but especially we celebrate KAWNZAA. One of the highlights of the KAWNZAA festivities is the libation statements, the Karamu.
Our fathers and mothers came here. They lived, loved, struggled, and built here. And at this place, love and labor rose like the sun and gave strength and meaning to the day. For them that gave so much, we give in return. And on this same soil, we will sow our seeds and build and move in unity.
Notice that the elders are given the place of honor in the Karamu. In fact, KAWNZAA events promote the concept of intergenerational connections, where the youngest and the oldest community members celebrate together.
As the individual and African American families and all families 21st century, it is clear we all need each other.
Community leaders, storytellers, artists, and poets contribute to the Karamu festivities. A traditional high point of the Karamu is the appearance of African dancers and drummers, such as the Sankofa Dance Theater. Imani, faith, is the final day of KAWNZAA. Imani is the inspiration and the rest of the year. Black to Basics is an organization built by two young African-American males who are positive role models carrying the Nguzo Saba to the next generation.
Our young children are not assured of themselves, so that must be a very, very important principle. Imani, or faith, something that we hold dear with our own personal stories, but most importantly with the global picture of the situation of our people and what we must even have strength in to conquer all obstacles.
If we put all of our energies into everything that we do, understanding what universal law is all about, that whatever goes around comes around. If we truly continue to believe in the children that we teach, it will then reflect onto them, and they will begin to believe in themselves. Black basics, one of the things we stress and emphasize is discipline and respect. When things are turned back to the basic form of life, you understand that respect was a force. Discipline was a force, was what nourished them.
This thing that we have shining ourselves as examples, products of the system.
Okay, in there for a second, see if we can get it going again.
What can happen to individuals who have a firm value base? What can happen to individuals who are filled with self-esteem and the need?
If we wish to have a successful tomorrow, we must cultivate today. We must not wait for anyone else to do it. We must not wait for it to mostly appear out of some I guess you would call it some wind or something for it to happen. We must concretely invest in our children today if we wish to have tomorrow.
There's an African proverb in which the rooster says, if there's no one in you, it's yourself. That's what Kwanzaa does. Kwanzaa is a community's blessing on itself for its strength, and especially its value. So we end Kwanzaa with a proud Haram pulled together. Happy
Okay, I think I'm back with you now. Let me know if you can hear me. We lost connection there for a bit. Let me know if you can hear me. Can you hear me? Can you hear me? Can you hear me? Let me know, please, if you hear me. Yeah, it's not clear if you can hear me. I lost connection for a second. Let me know if you can hear me now, please. Anyone, can you hear me? Okay, thank you very much, PP. Much appreciated. All right, so I hope you had a chance to see that video before we got disconnected. Excellent, loud and clear. Thank you very much, NS and Dorit. Always have these interactions when we're doing this important presentation. But I hope you had a good understanding from that little documentary on KAWNZAA, and that you really took away some key principles from it. What I like about KAWNZAA is that somebody has made an attempt to give the African diaspora an opportunity to not just be locked into Eurocentric celebrations and solutions, but it's an opportunity for us to step back and kind of look at ourselves as a people and see what we can do to regain a lot of lost grounds. You know, we have lost a lot of grounds over the last 400 or 500 years because we made some terrible mistakes past. I've taken a serious look at the 7 principles, and I want to make them more real for us, and very specific and very purposeful in the way that we look at those 7 principles. The first principle is almost self-explanatory, unity. But what do we understand by unity? What does unity mean to you? What does it mean to us as a people? What are we uniting around? Oftentimes you'd hear people talk about a lack of unity in the Black community, a lack of unity among African states, lack of unity among us as a people. Now, one of the challenges we have when we talk about unity is that normally the person who's talking about unity is talking about it in the context of something that they're doing and want you to be a part of. But for us as a people, unity must be much bigger than that, even though it will include some of that. For me, where we need unity is for us to unite around one singular common purpose, which overshadows all other purposes and is complementary to those purposes. And so for me, what we need to unite around is freedom, liberty. And I'll tell you why I say this. If we're not free, we cannot achieve anything else. It's like during the pandemic situation, when a lot of people came together and marched with the UIC. They did so because they realized that their liberty was at stake, that the government of the day wanted to force, and still wants to force upon us, something contrary to us. You know, they want to force a substance on us. They want to force us to take an injection. They want to force us to subscribe to one form of medication because their colonial masters told them that this is what they should give to us and we should just take it. And we wanted the freedom to say no. We wanted to be able to say, no, we don't want to take this. And so I want you to embrace this idea of unity to be bigger than anything that may be a cause, whatever the cause may be. This unity must be first and foremost focused on defending our right as individuals to be free persons, to be a free man, to be a free woman, to be able to self-determine, to be able to choose your path, to choose who or what you want to be, how you want to live, where you want to live. what you want to eat, what you want to wear, what kind of medication you wish to take. We live in a society today where you're losing all of those rights without even realizing it sometimes. If you look carefully at how we have evolved into where we are today, how many of you have any control over your children's education? Few. My wife and I, we had to homeschool our children because we wanted to give them certain values, teach them certain values. So we had to homeschool them because we could not rely on the regular school curriculum to do that. Now, in order for us to homeschool our children, we had to make huge sacrifice in terms of, one parent staying home on a full-time basis while the other parent working. And so we had to find unity within our family to be able to afford us the kind of education we wanted for our children, the kind of values we wanted to pass on to our children. Now, the same thing applies to us as a race, people. We have to unite around the concept of defending individual liberty so that we may all have the freedom to engage in all the other 6 principles of this idea of KAWNZAA. If we don't have liberty, then nothing else matters. So I'm calling upon us to unite around the fight for our individual liberty, the right to choose, the freedom to speak, the freedom to share our thoughts, the freedom to share our ideas, the freedom to share our criticism, the freedom to share our different viewpoints. And so, again, the world is evolving in a direction where censorship is becoming the norm, where big players in the media space gets to collude with big government to say they're going to determine what is allowable to be said. And so you can be canceled if you don't say what is authorized. You realize where we're heading. So little by little, we're getting to the place where the only kind of information that can be circulated is information that is authorized by a subset of us, a subset of people. Maybe Bill Gates, maybe Elon Musk, maybe Carl Schwab, maybe Justin Trudeau, maybe the World Economic Forum. They get to decide what we can hear, who we can hear from, when we hear it. They decide what is included in our children's curriculum, what they must learn. If they decide that our children should learn to not know which gender they are and they can pick a gender off the shelf and apply that gender to themselves, then that's what is going to be taught. And we must just accept it. So if you think about it carefully, you'll realize that this principle of unity, coupled with the second principle of self-determination, which we on the UIC call it individual responsibility. And there's a reason why we do that. Sorry, individual liberty. There's a reason why we do that. We don't want to just say self-determination and leave it there. Yeah? We want to make it very clear what self-determination means. Self-determination to the UIC means you having your full individual liberty protected, your full sovereignty protected, so that you can determine who you want to be. There's no self-determination without individual liberty. And so that's why the UIC, we're breaking down the KAWNZAA principle by saying unity, unity, yes. And we're defining unity What is it that the black man needs to fight for? What is it that all the people around the world needs to fight for? We must fight for individual liberty, freedom, not even equality, because we're all equal. We don't need to fight for equality. We're all equal. And if some people, for example, decide that they don't want us to eat in their restaurants, well, we're equal. We can go and open our own restaurants. If they don't want us to attend their school, well, we're equal. We can open our own schools. If they don't want us to sleep in their hotels, well, we're equal. We can open our own hotels. If they don't want us to sit in the front of their bus, then we're equal. We can go and start our own bus company. I wonder if you see where I'm heading here. I want us to recognize that we must fight for the right things. The history of the civil rights movement in the US is a history of tragedy. It was very tragic that the black leaders eventually moved away from fighting for the Booker T. Washington idea, the Marcus Garvey idea of liberty, freedom for the black man, to chart his own course, create his own industry, build his own school, design his own political system, organize his own philosophy. And we had some black leaders who moved us away from those powerful thinking to instead beg to be included in other people's schools, in other people's restaurants, in other people's hotels, and on other people's buses. Now, don't get me wrong, I'm not subscribing to segregation. What I'm saying is, do not mistake being allowed into somebody else's system as equality. We are born equal. We're not seeking equality with anybody. What we must do now is fight for and secure and protect our freedom to be who we are, to be who we want to be, to build our own economy, to build our own political system, to build our own educational system. And so KAWNZAA is an opportunity for us to rethink what we have been doing and what we have been allowing people to do to us. So the call for the UIC, the call from the UIC is for us to unite around one primary purpose, and that is to secure our true individual liberty. That's number 2 in the principles. Number 1 is unity. Principle number 2 is individual liberty, also called self-determination. The UIC wants us to make sure we secure that. That gives you freedom of speech, freedom of movement, freedom of association, freedom of choice. That gives you the empowerment you need to be as creative and productive as you can possibly be. It eliminates laws and regulations that are used to trick us. For example, right now, many of you cannot, in fact, none of us can design any financial scheme that we want to design and pursue, because there are laws that says no, you cannot do that. For example, many of you cannot get together and invest in anything because you'd be considered to be not qualified investors. Why? You don't have the level of capital that they prescribe. So because you don't have the level of capital, and you don't have the kind of education that they prescribe, then you cannot enter into any such financial designs. Those financial designs are only available to the qualified investors who are going to be of a certain caliber with a certain amount of already developed assets coming from generational wealth transfers built on the backs of slaves and then, carried on into the distant future. And so if you're not careful, eventually all your laws and regulations are going to be so designed that you're completely locked out of your own economy, which is what is happening right now. We're being locked out of the economy. So we're going to be begging for a job. Yeah? So you're going to be begging for a job, hoping that somebody will give you something, begging for charity, because all of the gates will be locked, closed by laws and regulations that were never designed to empower you. They were designed to simply extract your labor, extract your wealth, and to keep you poor. So again, we must unite to ensure that we have individual liberty. And then number 3 in the KAWNZAA is the idea of collective work and responsibility. The UIC makes that one simple statement. We don't say collective work and responsibility. We say individual responsibility or personal responsibility. You cannot work effectively as a collective if you don't take individual responsibility for your choices, for your actions, to build your own personal competences so that then you're in a position to contribute to the collective. We don't want people hiding behind the collective. You ever get a project to do it in school and the teacher put 3 or 4 of you together as a team and only 1 or 2 of you do the work and the others come and get a part of the grade? That's how collectives normally work. That's just human nature. Some people are, what do you call them now, freeloaders. They love to hide behind others and take advantage of other people. They like to benefit from other people's efforts without expending any themselves. They like unearned gains. Yeah? And so the UIC emphasizes personal responsibility, taking personal responsibility for your place, your role. So you're on the ship, and we're all rowing to get the ship from one end to the next. You must take personal responsibility for your oar. We're on the farm. You must take personal responsibility for your piece. We're building an organization. You must take personal responsibility for your tasks. Don't sit there and wait and hope that somebody else gets the job done and you just get to cheerlead. You have to play a specific role in getting the job done. And you have to take personal responsibility for it. You have to own it. And you have to be prepared when you come to meetings. After we have done a project, you must be prepared to come and speak to your contribution to that project. Don't just come and say, yay, we did a good job, we got it done. Yes, because the project was done. But what did you do? What was your role? Was it your role to take care of marketing? Did you do a good job? Was it your role to take care of advertisement? Did you do a good job? Was it your role to take care of sales? Did you do a good job? How about operations? How about finance? Which role did you play, and did you carry out that role effectively? That's very important. So we want to inculcate in our people the idea of taking personal responsibility for their role in the home, at work, and in the society at large. Owning your responsibility. So that's number 3. So number 1, unity. Number 2, individual liberty. Number 3, personal responsibility. Now, KAWNZAA's number 4 is cooperative economics. Cooperative economics, that is number 4. In the UIC, we don't say cooperative economics, and I'll tell you why. We say a free and fair economy. And the reason I don't say cooperative economics is because there's this idea, you see, and by the way, cooperative economics is very important. It's key. all great enterprises are done by more than one person. It may be first two persons, a partnership of two, could be a husband and wife. It could be a little bigger partnership of mother, father, and children, or maybe aunts and uncles. It could be a partnership of friends who come together and build something, two friends in a basement, or four friends. Or it could be a corporation where you have a small number of creators or conveners, and then they're able to ask a large number of persons through some form of initial public offering or crowdfunding, like Marcus Garvey did for the Black Star Liner, and bring together a large number of people and who become equity stakeholders, or in some cases, debt stakeholders. So somebody lend money to the partnership, or somebody invests equity funding to the partnership, and some invest maybe sweat equity to the partnership. And it's organized in a corporate manner where you have, legal documents like articles of incorporation or articles of association, a constitution, or whatever else you want to use. And so you organize yourself. Like when Christopher Columbus was coming to invade the New World, he went and sought funding from, the King and Queen of Spain and others, and he put together crews. He had to get investors to fund those ships, to fund the supplies that go on it. And those investors were taking a risk. They had no idea whether or not it is true that he would find what he said he's going to find if he sets out with the cargo that their funds paid for, and the men and women that he carried on board, and the animals. So cooperation is good, but you have to understand what we're talking about. Too often I see us form what we call cooperatives. Cooperatives is a relatively poor structure because it tends to give everybody equal share, even if they're not particularly contributing equally. And it doesn't properly divide the risks. And so what you find happening in most cooperatives, and Michael Manley tried this back in the 70s when he created all of these farming cooperatives, all of which failed. Most of them failed. Because when you're creating these things, you need to understand human behavior, and you need to understand business principles. You don't just do it because it sounds nice. And so oftentimes we have developed cooperative economics but are poorly designed. They're designed without a proper understanding of human behavior, without a proper understanding of business. And it's designed almost like, we're saints, like it's a church setting, and we're asking everybody to just love God and do well. It doesn't work. You have to be more pragmatic, more deliberate, more careful in your design. So you want to have cooperations versus cooperative. You want to know that you have careful assignment of responsibilities, careful description of roles and responsibilities, and of equity versus debt, and levels of risks and liability, and who takes care of what and why. And then make sure that there is a clear system of accountability involved. So we don't use the phrase in the UIC cooperative economics so much. We talk about having a free and fair economy. Free and fair now means individuals are free to design associations that make sense to them, that works for them. Instead of having a one-size-fits-all situation of, cooperative is the way to go. No. Allow the players, allow the different parties to design structures, design corporations that meets their ideals, and allow them to demonstrate in the grander scheme how their system works versus other systems. You'll find the UIC loves to have a mosaic of of ideas and systems working, as opposed to being monolithic or dictatorial or heavily centralized, where you have a central command and they just dictate and everything must go this way. No, we want to encourage diversity. We want to encourage different ideas to be tested and tried. You don't want us to go to the place where in most forms of so-called collective governance, you end up with a dictator. You end up with a group of men or women that dictates for everybody else. For example, back in the Dark Ages, when the church was in charge and the church would dictate. And so if you had a different idea about the stars, you have to hide, because if you were to say it, they'll catch you and burn you at the stake. If you had a different idea about the geography of the world, you might think it's round and the church think it's flat. If you say it, they cut your head off. So we have to guard against these things. We have to guard against the idea of losing that freedom, that liberty, which, by the way, is the key for you to build the most prosperous society. The more freedom you give people to think, innovate, create, cooperate in ways that they think among themselves, the more prosperity you create. All of this, of course, must be done in the framework of saying no to force or fraud. So your system of governance protects every individual from violence, from any other individual using force or fraud to take what belongs to them, to either take away their lives or take away their freedom or take away their property. So your governance model, in fact, the whole purpose of government, the fundamental purpose of government, is to protect each of us from the rest of us, and then to protect all of us as a collective from outside invaders coming in and destroying us. So if you have good government, the first thing you have is a government with a good police service that protects each of us from each other. So you can't use force to take my life, or use force to take away my freedom, to enslave me, or use force to take away my property, to rob me. And I can't use force to take away your life, or to take away your freedom, or to take away your property. So when you have government working effectively, you have a very peaceful and safe environment in which now to create and to produce. And it's in this mosaic of production and creation that you see all kind of new inventions, and the economy just keeps bubbling up and expanding and growing with this freedom. Now, the moment you have a different model of government, of oppression, heavy regulations, heavy-handed government deciding that they know what's best for everybody, and so they are going to dictate everything, every part of the economy, and lock this off, control this, decide who can get let through and who can't be allowed through. Once you have that kind of governance, you start to have stagnation, and then people know, because they're not free to create and innovate and do business and grow, you have more turning to crime. You see, there's something about young men. Young men need a lot of freedom to innovate and create, to be entrepreneurs. And when the system becomes so burdensome and heavy that they cannot express themselves through entrepreneurship and creativity because the system oppresses them and makes it very difficult for them to do so, they turn to crime. It's actually that simple. The more you oppress the society, the more crime you create in that society. The more violence you create, the more anger, the more unwanted pregnancies you create, believe it or not. And so Jamaica has been very stagnant, and Africa has been very stagnant because they have not discovered the beauty of freedom, the beauty of liberty. My good friend Lee Kuan Yew understood this very much when he created Singapore. he made sure that they had and still do have one of the freest economy in the world. So the people were very, very free and are still very free to do very well. The more oppression you put in an economy, the more oppressive the government, even if it's a subtle oppression. It might not be the oppression like they faced in South Africa under apartheid, which was quite obvious, or the oppression which they faced in China before they decided to free up the economy. You can have a subtle oppression where two gangs take over your economy, and then they make it a friend and company economy, a nepotism economy. Yeah? And so now they become heavily gatekeepers of the economy. So only some people can be let through some, and get special treatment here or there, get loans here or don't get loans here, and so on. And so you oppress the general economy. You stifle wages because you create conditions which make wage growth near to impossible. And then every now and again, you just loosen the screw a little bit with a little minimum wage here, the increase there. But you know the system that you have it under heavy manner pressure. So the vast majority will remain low wage earners, and a small minority called the PSOJ oligarchs and the connected few that they have in the political sphere will reap the benefits. So they will enjoy a certain high level of income, and they'll be able to live like them live a foreign. You'll see them wear foreign looking clothes and them house look foreign. They have all the nice things. But the vast majority are just looking on and suffering, wishing and hoping to watch TV and wish they could have that. And the more that pressure builds up in the society, the more it builds up in the society, the more the society is angry. The trick is the society don't fully understand what's happening to them, you see. So they're getting angry even at themselves. So you'll find that you start having gang wars. They're fighting this, you can't cross this road, or you can't cross this lane, you can't go down here. If you come from that side, they can't go from that side. And it just becomes this one big ugly mess of violence and bad mind and degradation. That's what they're creating in Jamaica, very successfully. But I want to help us to fully understand why we're going through this and what we need to do to change it. And so, again, KAWNZAA is a great instrument to explain these 7 principles. Let us fight for freedom above everything else. And within this freedom comes a system of government which will protect our freedom and give us the space, the environment, the safety, the cleanliness, the orderliness that we need. So number 1, unity. But unity for what? For freedom. To do what? Good governance. To do what? Protect our rights. I want to tell you some cleanliness, which you might not be aware of. The more dirty a country is, or the more dirty a home is, or the more dirty a community is the more depressed the minds of its people, the more unproductive the people become. So the fact that the 2 gangs that run our government has kept Jamaica as dirty as it is scientific fact that helps to degrade the nation and stifle our productivity, rob us of our prosperity. I hope you get that. So these 2 gangs that have kept us in a dirty country, and then of course they get us to say things about each other, how we're nasty and so on. Of course, yes, we're going to be nasty. If our government is nasty, then if you guys are nasty, then you're going to be nasty. You're not going to have any motivation to keep that piece of garbage with you when you get home and then dispose of it properly. When you get home and you see the garbage piling over, and you walk along the street and you see garbage all over the street, you're not going to have a good mind. You're not going to have a good attitude. So really, yes, the people people are nasty, and because their leaders are nasty. The leaders have trained the people to become nasty. So now we need new leaders, better leaders, leaders that are not nasty, leaders that love cleanliness, leaders that respect the people and want us to live in a clean, beautiful environment. And that clean and beautiful environment will now lift our spirit, lift our productivity, and in fact, bring the prosperity that we so long for. So, unity, number one. Number two, personal responsibility. Everybody being accountable for their role in this society, in the home, in their community. And number three, having personal responsibility, I should say individual liberty, right? Number two, individual liberty. And number three, personal responsibility. So unity for individual liberty, and we each take personal responsibility, and we do so in a free and fair economy. What is a free and fair economy? A free and fair economy is an economy where you're free to trade value for value with each other. There is no force. There is no fraud. Nobody is forced to buy or sell anything. Nobody is prevented from introducing a new product into the market because of some tricky government regulations designed to protect one set of producers and to lock out another set of producers. No. A free and fair economy is a truly free market economy where all of us are free to trade value for value with each other, where no trade takes place unless those who are trading believe they're getting value for what they're trading. It's called mutually beneficial trade. The government doesn't have any place in that. The only role the government has in such an economy is if any one of us in the trade decides to use force or fraud, the government now steps in to prosecute. Or if you and I enter into a contract and then I believe you break the contract or you believe I break the contract, then the government steps in with the judiciary to adjudicate the contract, to settle the difference, to help us to come to either a common understanding or to remedy the wrong done by one party to the next. Get it? So that's a free and fair economy. Not one where those with the most money gets to buy the politicians to make laws to give their industry or their sets of companies or their conglomerate or their monopoly a privileged position, protects them from competition from the small man or others. Yeah. And so I hope you're following. So now we have gotten down to the economics. The last three principles of KAWNZAA speaks to purpose, creativity, and faith. Purpose, creativity, and faith. The UIC names the three as follows. Instead of purpose, we say productivity, and I'll tell you why. Instead of creativity, well, we use the same word, creativity. Instead of faith, we have honesty. Why do we have productivity instead of purpose? Again, we want to be very, very clear. Sometimes we use words, and we have those words, they make us feel nice and warm and fuzzy inside, but that's about it. No practicality, no real clarity as to what is going on here. So we want to make it very clear. Your purpose, my purpose, is to be productive. So instead of purpose, we say productivity. And what does productivity means? It means you are adding value to society. You're producing something of value to society. All of us, each of us, must produce something of value that we share with society. We must all produce something of value that we share with society. And let me be more specific. We must produce a product that we share with society. That product can be a new instrument, a new piece of technology, a new philosophy, an idea, a form of charity, a service. But it must be something of value, and it must be voluntary, meaning you cannot force anybody to use your product or force anybody to buy your product. It must be that you offer this product, and because people in society finds it valuable, they consume that product. They cannot force you to make the product. They cannot force you to sell the product, and you cannot force them to buy the product, whatever it is. But you must add value to society. So you must be productive. Now, in any society, you'll find some people who are very unproductive. They will live and die, spend 70 years on this earth, 80 years on this earth, and they've offered nothing of value to society. Nothing of value. So they have existed and they've added nothing. Now, they might think they added something, but if the society isn't buying it, no one isn't buying the product that you're offering, then it's not valuable. Now, I'm being very straight with you. So you might want to offer something. For example, you might see a person who said that they're a singer. They love to sing. And they believe that that is their gift to society. That's the value that they're going to give to society. But for as long as they've been singing, nobody has been willing to buy their songs. Or they're a poet, and nobody's buying their poem. They're a painter. Nobody's buying their painting. You're a carpenter. Nobody's buying your service to produce anything. Then you have to change, because clearly nobody wants your product. That goes for all of us, self-included. And so instead of purpose, I want to be more specific and say be productive. Add value to your society. Add value to the lives of others. Trade value for value with other people. And of course, creativity. I love that word, because for you to be able to add value or to be productive, you must be creative. You must create something. You must create things. I am appalled at the fact that most of what we call technology, most of what we have in society is produced by 1% of us. One 1% of us create all the things that you see us enjoying. 1%. Can you imagine if the human brain would be more fully used? What a wonderful world we'd live in if more of us were to use that God-given gift that is called a brain. If one man, with a group of others, of course, working with him, but if one man could come up with the light bulb, so we now have light in the darkness, one man could do that. If man could design an automobile that we now use to drive to get from place to place faster. If two brothers could build an airplane, if one man could figure out and create the telephone. If one man could figure out how to make cloth that we can make clothes, and some figured out how to make bricks or blocks so we can build homes, and some figured out how to harvest steel from the earth to make all kind of metal implements. Can you imagine if more of us would do that? Now, one thing I've observed about my African family, my African heritage, is Africa. Africa is the richest continent on the planet. Did you know that? Did you know that Africa is the richest continent on the planet? There's no other place on earth richer than Africa. All of the world's wealth is in Africa. All of it. We have everything in Africa. It's the wealthiest place on earth. Yet still, it has the most poor people on earth. Why? Now, before you jump and start to blame the Europeans, the white man, as we love to do, we love to blame the white man. The white man is this, the white man is oppressing us, the white man stole our names, the white man stole our language, the white man did it, the white man. If the white man is to be blamed for all of that, then it means we're very stupid. Think about it. We have the richest piece of rock on earth. We have the biggest piece of wealth on earth. Africa is a massive landmass. Massive, massive landmass. Bigger than Europe. Africa is massive, and it has all of the earth's wealth in it. The only reason why we are poor with so much wealth under our feet is because we have allowed other people to use their brain more than we have. Don't shoot me, I'm just the messenger. We have allowed other people to use their brains more than us. We play around too much. We waste too much time. We talk too much. Think too little. Design too little. Create too little. We allow other people to come take over our land. We allow other people to come and enslave us. Who should we blame? I want to take personal responsibility for my people. I want us to be very honest. And that is why in KAWNZAA, the last principle that is called faith, I call it honesty. I don't want to leave us with a nebulous concept of this seventh principle. I want us to be brutally honest about why we are where we are. And I want us to be equally brutally honest about what we need to do to get out of it. I don't want us to continue to have pie in the sky ideas and victimhood status and blame everybody else for where we are. I want us to take responsibility for slavery. I want us to take responsibility for our economic position today. I want us to take responsibility for not building and implementing good governance to ensure we defend our life, our liberty, and our property so that we can produce value and trade that value for value with the rest and the masters of our own destiny. Now, I see Jamaica as a little Africa. So I want to start right here in Jamaica. I want to start right here in Jamaica with these 7 principles of KAWNZAA. And I want us to come together in unity of purpose. We are going to join hands together and we are going to take Jamaica out of the hands of the colonial masters and the Bakra masters they have here working for them. So we have to unite in the struggle, in the fight to rescue Jamaica from the hands of the Bakra master, the 2 gangs, from the PSOJ oligarchy that stands over them and funds them, and the colonial powers that has them like puppets on a string. We have to come together and unite, join hands from across the ocean, wherever we are, whether you are in America, Canada, England, Germany, Australia, Japan, Cayman, Barbados, wherever you are, Sweden, wherever you are, anywhere in Europe, anywhere in Asia, anywhere in Africa, anywhere in the Caribbean, anywhere in North America, let us join hands as Jamaicans, African Jamaicans. And when you join hands now, you're joining your time, your talent, and your treasure. And we pool together and take back Jamaica. We're not going to take back Jamaica by wishing or hoping, just saying, oh, I hope when they go to the polls, they vote UIC. They will not vote UIC if we don't have the money to talk to them, if we don't have the money to go and reason with them, if we don't have the money to market to them, if we don't have the money to advertise to them, if we don't have the money to fund them as volunteers to help bring out their mothers and fathers and grandmothers and grandfathers. So all of us, each of us, have to give something to the cause. If you're in Jamaica, 2,500, 1,000, 250, you give something. And if you're overseas, you give something. All we need is 1,000 Jamaicans around the world giving $25 a month. Just 1,000. And the UIC will win a number of seats. Just 1,000. Don't have that yet. We only have 124. We need 1,000. So that's the thing that we're going to have to get now. And why are we united? We're united to defend first and foremost our individual liberty. The right to your life, liberty, and property in this country. And so when we come together and we do that, and we win the government, protect our rights, and effect a new constitution that gets rid of the monarchy, gets rid of bad governance, and give us a safe, clean, and orderly environment that allows for Jamaicans here at home and abroad to be able to come back or to work in or to invest in a safe environment, a clean environment, an orderly environment that allows all of us to operate to our maximum potential. So each of us now have to take personal responsibility. Principle number 2, we must take personal responsibility for this change in Jamaica. I have taken on more than my share of personal responsibility. So I'm inviting all of you to take personal responsibility. I want us to take personal responsibility, each and every one of us, and tell your friends, your neighbors, your co-workers, your parents, your siblings, your cousins, say, come man, make all the way, take personal responsibility for transforming Jamaica into the vision that the UIC has expressed. Let's all take personal responsibility, each and every one of you. And if you take personal responsibility, you will do your part. You may not be able to come back to Jamaica to vote on election day because the cost is too much. You can't get time off from work, all kind of reasons. No problem. The money that you would have spent to take a plane and come here to vote, you send that to us. If you give us $25 a month, that is $300 US. That's all. That will be enough if that's all you can give. Some of you will give $50. That's $600 US for the year. Others of you will give $10. That's $120 US for the year. Whatever it is, and as much as you can, that's your personal responsibility, and do it religiously every single solitary month. And if 1,000 of us do that, I assure you 10,000 will do it. But we just have to do it. We have to go from the 10 to the 50 to the 100. Right now we're at 192. Over the last year, 192 of you gave $10 or more. In fact, you gave an average of $50, each of you, an average of 50 USD. Now, if we decide to unite, to defend our liberty, and don't take that lightly. You see this thing called liberty? Please do not take it lightly. You might not be aware, but right now as we speak, there are those who are working overtime to take away all of our freedom in every country. I want to make Jamaica that one exception. And don't underestimate it. Don't think that we can't do it. Little Singapore, which is much smaller than Jamaica, it is 1/15 the size of Jamaica, 1 divided by 5. Singapore is the size of St. Thomas. They, during the time that we failed in a global economy of Cold War, USSR versus the USA and their allies, during that period, from the 1960s all the way through to the 1990s, one country, 1/15th our size, was able to grow their economy using the principle of economic liberty. They were able to grow their economy from $550 per person to over $65,000 per person. We, which was supposed to be a free country, which was a lie, a free country, a stable democracy, we grew our from $550 per person to no more than 5,000 to 9,000 US dollars per person to this day. So don't believe that Jamaica is too small to do great things. We are too great to remain so small in our thinking, in our output. We have punched way above our weight in athletics. We have punched way above our belt in terms of music, entertainment. We, with as bad a country as we are, we have still done very well in tourism. Just imagine when the UIC takes over and make all of Jamaica, all, not just pockets, all of Jamaica, looking, smelling, and feeling like a tourist resort. What that alone is going to do to our economy. We would have moved from where we are now in terms of tourist arrival to 4 times that when the UIC has transformed our tourism product. And just imagine what that is going to do to our economy when, instead of us importing foods into these all-inclusive hotels, we have brought tourism to the community level and have that money being spent at the community level, buying the things that the community produces and what our farmers are producing locally here, how much that is going to lift our economy. Just imagine when we finally have a government that respects us enough to collect garbage on time, that respects us enough to have sidewalks properly placed and put in place for the elderly, for the school children, for everybody to walk safely and not be compromising traffic. Just imagine a government that respects us enough to have street lights everywhere, mostly solar driven, so we can see at nights and move around comfortably. Just imagine when we have a government that respects us enough, so we have fixed addresses. All of us have a fixed address. Every street have names. Right across the country, there are proper street signs that tells you to turn left or right to get here so or there so, and how far away it is, so you can stay on track. Just imagine a Jamaica where the transportation system is fully organized and is no less than Knutsford's Express. Scheduled, on time, clean, quiet, peaceful, orderly, public transportation from east to west and north to south on schedule. And schedule is posted at the bus stop that looks decent, bus stop, somewhere you can feel comfortable stopping and waiting for a bus or a taxi. Just imagine the vehicle, my friends, when the UIC takes over our government. A government that will now respect the people, serve the people, and protect the people. When we have a police service instead of a police force, where the police is no longer an agent of the state of which you should be afraid, but rather a community social worker that is fully engaged in building the community, is a part of the community, is well known by the community, is involved in the community, is helping to create and sustain the community. Just imagine when we have a justice system where no matter how poor you are, you're guaranteed justice in a timely manner, in a respectful manner, where the judge speaks to you with respect, where the police and those working in the courts deal with you respectfully because they must. All I'm saying is we can do this if we apply the KAWNZAA principle of unity. If we realize what we're first and foremost fighting for is our individual liberty, the freedom that Nanny fought for, the freedom that Sam Sharp fought for, the freedom that Paul Bogle fought for, the freedom that George William Gordon died for, the freedom that Marcus Garvey lived for. That's what we're fighting for. Without freedom, nothing else matters. Freedom is like your health. If your health is failing you, nothing matters. That's all that you focus on, your health. If we do not have individual liberty, we have nothing. And then secondly, we must have property. Property is the foundation of prosperity, and that is why they have withheld our property for more than 500 years, more than 600 years now. They have withheld our property from us. And that is why the UIC is going to return the land to the people. We're going to do away with the idea of crown lands, do away with the idea of government land. All the land belongs to the people of the land. And so we have a structured program that's going to make every Jamaican family a property owner. We're going to put in place a structured system that makes every Jamaican a property owner, with quality homes built and designed for quality living and financed in a way that allows every family to enjoy a decent home now and to pay that off over a very long period of time, depending on their income level, but to enjoy decent housing now, up front. So no more child has to live in a bad situation, a house without a proper toilet, without a kitchen, without proper running water, without a proper bedroom. So we're going to fix that and make sure that our people are properly housed. And to do that, we're going to properly use the land, making sure that land which is for agriculture remains for agriculture, and that it is properly used for agriculture, organic agriculture. We're going to make Jamaica the organic food capital of the world. You think it can't be done? Well, if the Netherlands can do it, if a small European country which doesn't have the beautiful climate that we have and beautiful natural resources that we have, if them can do it, we can do it too. The only reason we haven't done it is because we have leaders who are misleaders. We have leaders who are not working for us. They're working for somebody else. They're making somebody else wealthy at our expense. So it's time now for us to take charge of our country. Look at the rest of the world, like Lee Kuan Yew did, and make sure anything which anybody is doing well, we copy it, make it better, and apply it to ourselves if it makes sense. We have some clear competitive advantage. Agriculture is our #1 competitive advantage. Tourism is another competitive advantage. Bauxite mining is not a competitive. It is a destructive form of wealth generation. It actually is a negative form of wealth generation. You're actually cutting off your nose to spite your face doing bauxite mining. You're destroying everything about your country by doing bauxite mining. So we're going to reverse all of that. We're going to bring back our competitive strengths in agriculture, maximize our tourism sector, maximize our entertainment sector, maximize our sports sector, and we're going to go into some powerful areas that we have not tapped into properly, if at all. We're going to get into renewable energy. As an innovator, we're going to become very engaged space of energy generated from renewable sources, biogas, solar, hydro, geothermal. We're going to become masters in those areas so that we can make Jamaica less dependent on imports. So watch me now. We maximize tourism in a way that is complementary to our biodiversity, right? We're going to maximize our land organically. So we're doing two things. We're feeding ourselves, we're feeding the world good food, and we're preserving our environment by not using things that would destroy it. So energy, with that alternative energy or renewable energy, where they're fully involved in the science of it, in the innovation of it, not just buying technology and using it. We're going to become a leader in innovating, creating, inventing, producing energy and sharing that knowledge with others in a profitable way for our country. So we're profitable on energy, we're profitable on food, we're profitable on leisure, we're profitable on entertainment, we're profitable on sports, and we're going to become profitable on water, maximizing our water harvesting capabilities right across the country. Massive harvesting facilities at every level in the homes, yeah? So harvesting at home, harvesting at the community level, harvesting from government buildings, harvesting in massive, what do you call these now? Reservoirs, building the connectivity channels, using solar pumps to move water around, and then making sure that we're exporting some of the best quality water around the world. I hope you see where we're heading here. Now, this cannot happen by the other two gangs. Those two gangs cannot do what I'm saying. They can talk about it. They are going to talk about it. They're going to mention it. It's going to now be fully in their manifestos everywhere. But you need to remember, if they did not do it for 78 years, they will never do it. It's not in their DNA. It's not in their makeup. It's not in their mindset. They will only say to you now to win elections because their focus is on winning elections. And when they win, their primary work is to do what their colonial masters say and to do what the PSOJ oligarchs say and to find ways to rip you off so that they can win the next election again and continue the process. So right now, both of them are studying very hard how to fool you to win the next election, how to block you from knowing about the UIC, how to keep the UIC away from the people as long as possible so they can win 5 more years. And they spend that 5 years, how to make sure we can win another 5 more years. And they're spending that 5 years, so by the time you finish, they spend another 15 years, another 30 years. So instead of 78 years, it will be 108 years. And God help Jamaica when them finish with it. Because the longer they stay in office, is the more impoverished and pauperizing the people of Jamaica will be. It's the more the people of Jamaica will become tenants in their own country, locked out of their own economy, locked out of owning their own property, locked out of any future in their own country, and more have to run away as economic refugees because this country has no place for the people of Jamaica. It is a place to be owned by foreigners. It is a place to be run in the interest of foreigners, and for we the people here, if we stay here to be servants, or go foreign and be servants over there. But they do not want us to prosper in this country because they are afraid. Those two gangs, they are afraid of an intelligent Jamaica. That's why they will not give the diaspora the right to vote remotely. They know if they give the diaspora the right to vote remotely, they can't buy them out. Can buy out the people who they have kept poor and hungry here. But they can't buy out the diaspora. So that's why they will not, I repeat, they will not give the diaspora the right to vote remotely. They're going to tell you, you can vote, but you have to come home to Jamaica and you have to go through the process, and that process, and you can't do it. We, the UIC, have no fear of the diaspora voting because what the diaspora want is what we want. The diaspora wants a safe Jamaica. We want that. The diaspora wants a clean Jamaica. We want that. The diaspora wants an orderly Jamaica. We want that. The diaspora wants good governance in Jamaica. We want that. The diaspora wants to come home and to be able to live, earn, and retire with dignity in the country. We want that. Them don't want that. They want to maintain a slave economy where them are the master and we're the slaves. And so as long as they live, as long as they have control of our government, the diaspora will never have the right to vote. The UIC also will give the diaspora not only the right to vote, but the right to be appointed to any position in government and to run for office as a dual citizen in this country. And the reason why we say that, you are a dual citizen not because you just get up and left Jamaica, so. You're a dual citizen because the people who led this country run you out of this country, push you out of this country. You had to go to America. You had to go to Canada. You had to go to England to try to make something of yourself and enjoy a basic, decent standard of living. So you should not be punished for that. You're an economic refugee. So you have just the right to run for office in this country as any other Jamaican. And so we want to make Jamaica bigger than just those who have always lived here or who don't have no other citizens. We want to give the right to vote to all Jamaicans. Wherever you are, anywhere in the world, you can vote. And you can come back as a US citizen and run for office as a Jamaican citizen without giving up your US citizenship. Why? We don't want to scare you off. We want to reverse that brain drain. And the quickest and fastest to reverse the brain drain is to embrace all Jamaicans. So whether you are a Swedish citizen, an English citizen, an American citizen, whatever you are, a German citizen, you are welcomed back in. Once you're a Jamaican, you have your Jamaican citizenship, you're welcome. And you must be able to stay in Germany or in America or in Canada or in England and vote. And the day you are ready to return to Jamaica, we, the UIC government, will give you 100% duty-free so that you can come back to this country without paying a single cent to bring back everything you have. Bring your car, no matter what age it is, as long as it's working and you can drive it. You bring your car, you bring your tool, you bring your job, pick up everything you can bring and come back to this country free of charge because this is your country and you should not pay a cent to come back into it with all of your assets. Those are your assets. You work hard for them. You shouldn't come and pay again just because you want to come back and give back to your country. I'm saying all of this. If we do what I'm saying and really engage Jamaicans across the expanse of the world, we can quickly reverse the brain drain. Reverse the brain drain. I want to bring back every Jamaican who want to come back. I want to roll out the red carpet. I want you to know exactly what you need when you're coming back. So when you say, okay, I've left Jamaica for 25 years, 30 years, I want to come back. We must have an office. This is what the UIC is going to do. An office for returning residents where we do everything possible to make your return as smooth, as easy, as productive as possible. So whatever industry you're coming back to work in, if you're coming back to work or you come back to, yes, we must give you all the information you need just so. As soon as you ask for it, we must have it for you. Whatever industry, once it's within the ambit of government's resources, we must know what you need to know and tell you. The demographic information you need, the statistical information you need, the financial information you need. You should not spend more than 24 hours to get your bank account open. 24 hours. That's the kind of KPIs, key performance indicators, we're going to put in place. So your bank account quick, your business registration, 48 hours, business registered fully. Permit to build or do whatever, no more than 10 days, done. So all these things to make it easy for you to come back and start to perform right away, to hit the ground running. Employing staff, we must make it very easy for you. If we do this, we would have set Jamaica on a path to get to where Singapore is today in less than half the time it took them to get there. By accelerating. So KAWNZAA, number 1, unity. Number 2, individual liberty. Number 3, personal responsibility. Number 4, free and fair market economy. Number 5, productivity. Number 6, creativity. And number 7, honesty. We want to build a very honest relationship among ourselves in understanding our history and in making choices. So I want us to be very honest and forthright about why we lost our freedom for 400 years and why for 100 years rather after that. It took us 100 years to realize that we weren't freed when they told us we were freed in 1838. It took us 100 years, almost, 1838 to 1944, over 100 years before we finally got the right to vote. When we got that right to vote, all they did was to trick us. They trick us into voting against ourselves. They trick us into fighting ourselves now. From fake freedom to fake democracy. And in 1962, they gave us fake independence. And now we have a bunch of gangsters, 2 gangs, that are about to trick us again into a fake republic. We must not allow to do this, my friends. We must not allow them to fake us, to again get us into a fake institution, a fake republic. They fool us with a fake independence. They fooled us with a fake democracy in 1944, and they fooled us with fake freedom in 1838. All the time fake. They've been fooling us now for so many years with a fake banking system, a fake monetary system, a fake economic system, a fake education system, a fake political system. It's time for us to say enough is enough. No more fake. We want a real republic now. We want good governance now. We want a safe Jamaica now. A clean Jamaica now. An orderly Jamaica now. But all of this is wishful thinking if you and I do not take personal responsibility now. All of us must take personal responsibility now for the Jamaica that we want. If you sit on the sideline and don't make that basic decision to fund the UIC with just $25 a month, guess what? The PSOJ oligarch will still fund the other two gangs. And those gangs will work for the PSOJ and work against you and me and our children and our future. The PSOJ is the outgrowth of the plantocracy, which is the outgrowth of the slave master on the plantation. They have no interest in having a truly free and fair economy. They have no interest in having Jamaicans being free individuals. At the drop of a hat, they will sell you out, they will sell us out, they will cause anybody who wants to inject us to inject us. Anybody who wants to devalue our currency, they will allow them to devalue it. Anybody that wishes to undermine our economy, destroy our people with a fake education, destroy the minds of our children with all kinds of fallacies and misguided ideologies, they will sell us out at the drop of a pin. So the longer we sit here and wait and hope and wish and pray for a Messiah to save us, is the more ground they're covering. And while we are wasting time, they're planning and plotting. My friends, the next 3 years, 2023, 2024, 2025, will be terribly. We have a choice to make. Will we sit by and once again allow them to kill the prophet? Will we sit by and once again allow Marcus Garvey to fail? Will we sit by once again and allow them to hang Sam Sharp and Paul Bogle? Will we sit by again and allow them to give a trick treaty to Nanny? Will we sit by and allow them to fool us once again? I urge you, I implore you, I beg of you, don't let them do it to us again. This is the last straw. And this time, when they enslave us, it might be longer than 400 years. This time, they're going to have a digital currency, which means you cannot escape them. No matter where you turn, as long as you have to buy something, you will not be able to escape them. This is serious, friends. They are determined to take away your economy 100%. We have a prime minister, we have an opposition leader, we have two parties, we have a PSOJ oligarchy that is committed to doing whatever those globalists intend to do to us. They will be the first in line to make sure that your economic freedom is completely abolished with this so-called central bank digital currency. They'll be first in line to make sure that the right to your bodily autonomy is taken away. The next time will be much harder to escape than the last time. They will hold you down if necessary and stab you. They will do worse than what you saw in Australia. They will do worse than what you have seen in China. They are committed to having their way. And I'm saying, once again, my people, Marcus Garvey did it. He did the unthinkable and stood up at a time when it's impossible to stand up. He stood up in a country that he had no standing. He was not a citizen in the US, but we run him out of Jamaica, and he went to the US and did what he was not allowed to do in his own country. And then they expelled him because they had the power to do so. This is Fiwi country. Let us make the Marcus Garvey move here. Let us get this country to be the beacon of hope and light that Marcus Garvey was to African Americans across the length and breadth of that grand union. Let us do what Marcus Garvey was not allowed to do here. Let us extricate Jamaica from their monetary system and their economic trickery. Let us extricate Jamaica from their education system and their brainwashing monopoly. Let us extricate Jamaica from their system of colonial thinking. Let us build a new paradigm of politics, a non-partisan constitutional republic where we're not divided by party, but united in good governance and independent in our thinking and policy-driven, focused on true representation, not on partisan trickery and distraction. We can do it, my friends. But first, we have to unite. And second, we have to take personal responsibility to secure that individual liberty. Freedom of speech, freedom of movement, freedom of association, freedom of choice. Without those four things, you are nothing. And they intend for you to be nothing. They want you to own nothing and be happy. They want you to be a happy slave. Yeah? Whatever that means. How can you be a happy slave? Do me a favor. I'm going to be off the live shortly. And for us to have these lives reach more people, you need to like it, you need to share it, and you need to comment. Now, once I close the live, do me a favor. Go on the live and write a comment to tell me how well we did. Do you like what you hear? Do you support what you hear? Do you want what you hear? Will you support this movement, this mission? But I want you to do it after I close the live. Go into the comment section and just share your thoughts. Say how you feel. Maybe just one line. Say 100% if that's all. If you don't agree with me, feel free to say that as well. Do not hold back. If you think I'm saying something foolish, if you disagree with my interpretation of KAWNZAA, if you don't like the direction I'm taking with the UIC, whatever it is, I want you to give your honest feedback. The time has come for us to be brutally honest with each other. Tell me what you think. Tell me what you don't like. Tell me what you like. And just share your thoughts. But I want you to put it after I close the live. All right. So once I've closed, I want you to put in there, your, how do you rate this? 100% for great, 0 for horrible, and somewhere in between, if that's your thought. But in closing tonight, let us remind ourselves of the 7th principle of KAWNZAA. I wanted to talk about other things, but it's too late right now. But KAWNZAA, unity, one Jamaica, stronger together. Individual liberty, without which nothing else matters. Personal responsibility, what we all must take if we're going to succeed. Free and fair market economy is the foundation for true growth and prosperity. Productivity must be our purpose. Above everything else, we must have a purpose of producing and creating value. Let's stop who simply consume. Let's be thinkers, creators, producers. Help us bring to work this new thinking political paradigm where we can be non-partisan. We can have independent representatives, independent thinkers who truly represent the people. And we can create this new form of governance, non-partisan constitutional republic, a true republic where we protect the sovereignty of each individual and by extension, the sovereignty of the collective. There's no collective sovereignty without individual sovereignty. So we must protect the individual and his sovereignty. And finally, in KAWNZAA, principle number 7 is faith. We call it honesty, because we must be honest about why we're here, how we got here, how we got to this point in our history. We must be honest about it, stop being others, and take responsibility for our action, the things of our leaders, the failings of our society, our empires, and protect and secure our freedom. And we must be honest now about what we need to do and take responsibility. Each of us must now take responsibility for extracting Jamaica out of the hands of the two gangs and the PSOJ oligarchy that funds and controls them, and the colonial powers to which they pay obeisance. We know that these two gangs and their PSOJ leaders worship the colonial powers. They believe that white is right. They do not believe in us. They do not even think we deserve a clean environment, a safe environment, a decent environment. So they neglect us while extracting our wealth from us. And so we now have to come together, join hands, and fight for our right to be free men and women who live in a safe, clean, and orderly environment where all of us can live, earn, and retire with dignity in our own country. And for that, we see ourselves as one Jamaica, whether you live in Canada, England, America, Sweden, Cayman, Japan, Israel, Australia, Germany, it doesn't matter. If you are a Jamaican, you are a part of this one family, and the UIC is going to bring us together again. Thank you very much for your time. I look forward to the day when we elect our first UIC government and transform Jamaica completely from top to bottom. I know we can do it. I know we will if we all take responsibility for it. Thank you very much. Have a good night. And remember, once I close the live, give your comments and your ratings there and be honest, okay? Open and honest. I want your true feedback. All the best. Have a good night. Take care. And share everywhere. Happy Kwanzaa. See you tomorrow when we talk about day 2. Day 1 was the kickoff on unity. Tomorrow, day 2, we're going to deal with individual liberty in more detail. Have a good night. All the best. Happy Kwanzaa.